Welcome to the SMO Podcast. My name is Whitney, and today I'll be asking each guest 7 questions in 7 minutes. Here is the first look of our guest that will be speaking live on our stage. Look below to see what you'll say differently. And here is our next episode. Welcome.
Guys, we are here with another episode here on the SMO platform, and it's a pleasure to be here. I have a new guest here calling all the way in from Cali. So Cali's in the house. I love this. We have a lot of Cali guests for some reason. Maybe they're the talkative ones instead of the East Coast people. But we love everybody that comes on this entire podcast. And today we have no other than Taylor, who is going to be talking about the true mental health awareness of how she's been able to create an environment around the world. And now she's expanding it so that people become more aware of how to actually get down to the root of things and overcoming her story. So without further ado, I would love to welcome Taylor. How you doing, Taylor?
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be on the podcast and just share a little bit more about Season of and what we have going on.
So yeah, what is the brand? What is the brand again?
Season of, we are a mental health forward brand and wellness event company. Our tagline is for those who don't feel the same every season.
For those that don't feel the same every season. That's such a catchy thing to say. I like that. I actually like that. But for those watching, like, who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I started out as a creative writer. I write a lot about mental health, trauma healing, interpersonal relationships. And originally I had an online alias. It's called Told by T. And I was looking for a way to reach more people with my writing and just overall bring a community together surrounding mental health. I know that my journey and I know the struggles and triumphs that I've been through, and I want to encourage more people to not hide behind their triumphs and feel happy and proud to talk about their triumphs, but also feel comfortable enough to also share their struggles and not feel like they're burdening another person, and instead creating a community that's means of connection surrounding both.
So I guess in a sense, Taylor, because it's very intentional. So like, how did you get started, and like, what was that process for you to move in this intention?
Yeah. So I love telling the origin story of Season of because it sounds pretty funny and spooky. It was created from a dream. I tend to have pretty vivid and premonition filled dreams. I woke up from this dream, and I'm not exaggerating because it's really ridiculous. I woke up in this dream with my finger in the air and I just said yes. And at the time I had a boyfriend at the time, and he looked at me and it was like, you just woke up out of your sleep saying yes with your finger in the air. That's very strange. And I told him, I was like, I have a brilliant idea. I want to turn my writing into a clothing and merchandise brand. That's where it's going to start. And I'm going to put my writing onto each piece of clothing and merchandise. Each collection is going to surround a different aspect of mental health. And for those who don't feel the same every season was actually like a piece of one of my writing. And then of course, Season of was bred. I filed my LLC that day, and I've been going ever since. And within the first year and a half, I expanded to hosting wellness events as well. And January was our 5-year anniversary. So
Wow.
Yeah.
5 years already.
Yes.
5 years already. So I guess what's something you struggled with that, people wouldn't like really expect?
So I've always, I would say outwardly facing, I'm always like a happy-go-lucky, glass half full type of person. But a lot of people, especially during college, had no idea. Like, I had tons of suicidal ideations. I was severely depressed. I was masking a lot of the internal struggle and emotions. I was keeping it all in, but I was masking it, with substances and excessive partying because I was young, and I didn't know really the proper way to cope. I just knew what seemed like an outlet and an instant gratification that served some kind of seemingly happy purpose. And of course, that's always smoke and mirrors, and those things only mask the problem. It's very interesting because it wasn't until, and I'm going to be very transparent here, until my first suicide attempt that it was a wake up moment. It's like I'm not ready to be done. I'm not ready at 18 or 19 years old to end it all the way I thought. And I need to take control over my own life and learn what it is that's going on at the time. I had never spoke to a doctor, never spoke to a therapist, never knew what it truly meant. Like, I knew that people felt sadness. I knew people felt depressed. I had heard those words, but I never thought that that was me because I'm like, oh, I'm a happy person. Why was identifying those words as being setbacks and ailments and oh, people that are feeling these type of way, it's like a victim mentality. And I had no idea. I was young and I was ignorant, and I did see two different doctors and had an evaluation done and and told them like, look, like this is how I'm feeling and this is what I just experienced. This is what I tried to do. And luckily I'm still here today, but I want to get a better understanding of, as a 19-year-old woman, what this is and why I'm feeling these ways. And two different doctors told me, they said, well, you're clinically depressed
Mm,
and you suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder based on, a number of things that you experienced from childhood to recent and a series of grief back to back that you never truly
mm,
healed from or spoke to anyone about. You just were
mm,
this like shell of a person and feeling these intense emotions at a very young age. And I shoved them down because I used to put so many people above myself because I thought that
mm,
that's what was right to do. I had to make sure everyone else was good. If everyone else is good, I'm good. But I wasn't good.
mm,
And once I was, faced with, I guess you could call them diagnoses, I knew that I didn't want them to be something that were crippling, but instead something that I could use to propel myself to better communicate with others and
mm,
better understand myself. So I picked up a minor in psychology. I learned the basics of what interpersonal communication looks like and noticing signs within myself and other people and how to better manage my emotions. And that's basically where a lot of that stemmed from. Writing was always my outlet, poetry was always my outlet, and from there it's snowballed to where we are today.
nice. Wow. Honestly, yeah, that's a lot of people are stuck in that and they don't really realize it. And not only is that powerful for you to, open up and let everybody know that. And me, my family, friends, we have all been there. So, and I love that, society is talking more about it now. If someone came to you struggling, like what's the first thing, because you said you went ahead and started to study psychology and really go to the root of things, what's like the first thing you'll help them fix with?
So one thing I am also I'm very talkative. A lot of my friends say I could sell toast to a toaster, or I could
Mm,
talk a wall's ear off if it had one. But one thing that I find to be very important when you're speaking to anyone that's struggling is most people just want to be heard and they just
mm,
want a listening ear. The for anytime I have a friend or anybody that comes to me with wanting to vent or whatever, I always ask questions first. I always ask them, are you looking for advice? Are you looking
mm,
for support and comfort?
mm,
Or are you looking just for someone to listen? And
mm,
usually they're like, sometimes they know, and sometimes they're like, well, I don't know. I just want to get this off my chest. And I say, okay.
mm.
So I always lead with listening and asking questions because I also growing up in both a Christian and a Catholic household, one thing about God too is, or with Jesus Christ, he used to ask a question with a question, and
All the
I
time.
and I thought that that was always very impactful and important, and something that I take in my current journey as well. With anybody that I speak to, whether it's business, whether it's personal, to ask a question with a question and get to the root of it, and not overindulge in share in giving advice to someone that
Mm,
may not be seeking advice. And I'm not a licensed therapist or anything like that. I just
mm,
speak from the heart and from experience and just kind of going from there. And obviously the nature of the relationship with that person, you can kind of gauge where they're at and what they're seeking.
mm. So what's one thing someone can do like today to, I guess, in a sense, improve their situation?
Well, I think it's a bit subjective because everyone's situation is different.
Correct.
But one piece of advice that was that it was not given to me, but it was still received. I had heard this interview that Tyler Perry did many years ago, and
Hmm.
one thing that he mentioned was, which I think can be taken into most things, is that grief waits for you. It's a
Mm,
revolving circle and it's a revolving door. And although that sounds simple, it's something that stuck with me very deeply because he was saying the further that you run, the more
Mm,
it's going to sit there and wait for you. So you can
mm,
keep running, you can keep distracting yourself, but it's going to be here, and
it's gonna be there.
whenever you make your way back around, you're going to be faced with it, and you can't run from it forever. And that was one testament to my sobriety as well as my business of being like, okay, this was the root, is
Mm,
this grief, this trauma, these things that I was avoiding feeling that are inevitable are here. And I'm never going to get comfortable with not only talking about my experience or what I'm truly feeling unless I just really grow through it.
mm.
So I think that's
Yeah.
important.
No, no, 1,000%. I honestly agree with you, and honestly, grief does wait for everybody. Because I think that's important. Like people need to understand that.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, you got to deal with it. You have to deal with it. So, in a sense, you created an environment for these individuals, um, who are, I guess, the identifying factor, who are the perfect people that you create this environment for.
Well, I think the important part to know is we're all imperfect, and we're
Mm,
all coming together to, we all have very unique stories, different walks of life, different experiences. And what's important is all of my events I coin them as being gatherings as opposed to outings. And I encourage people to come as they are. Oftentimes people are like, well, what's the dress code? What should I wear? And I
mm,
laugh and I tell them, I said, honestly, I want you to come in what makes you feel your best. Obviously, I'm biased and I'm always going to wear season of because that's what makes me feel good. But I tell others, I'm like, if you feel comfortable coming in a tux and a gown, by all
mhm,
means do it. I'm not gonna be wearing a tux and a gown, but if
mm,
that's what makes you feel your best, absolutely do it. If you want to come in some swim trunks and a t-shirt, totally do it. I want this environment to be as as comfortable as a night in. And
mm,
you could be walking into this one of our events alone and still feel like you know everybody in the room because it's going to be the most comfortable and welcoming environment. And that's one of many things that has been said when I get feedback from others. They're like, "Wow, I just left and I made two new friends," or "Oh my gosh, I met somebody who also works in the same field as me and we both are struggling with the same thing," or "Hey, I met somebody and I think they could help me with my business," and vice versa. And that to me is the most powerful, that we can,
mm,
the power of connection, the power of community in a booze-free environment, just
mm,
being there and experiencing what's to come. Like I always, since I've been sober, which is a silly question a lot of people ask, but totally understandable. They said, "What do you like to do now that you're sober?" Like, well, the same things I did before, but just no, just sober. But
yeah.
my recipe for a good time is good people, good food, good weather, and good music. So I try to incorporate all those mediums into my events, some more than others. Before we hopped on the call, I mentioned to you I've hosted a
Hmm.
booze-free day party with DJs going back to back. There was a sushi chef with non-alcoholic wine and caviar bumps. There was people there that like, I've never had caviar in my life. This is so cool. Or I hate caviar. I'm never doing that again. But they tried it and it was fun.
Hmm.
There's other I recently have done two different takeovers at Pilates studios. There's some people that have never done Pilates before, both men and women, and I had a curated matcha bar, and people are like, "I'm a coffee drinker, but I might be down for matcha now." Like just
Hmm.
curating different experiences, environments that obviously some of these things exist in the world, but they've not been put together in the way that I'm curating these environments. I want them to be one of a kind experiences that people are going to remember and want to come back to.
Yeah, I love that. I guess to kind of end it off, because it's so intentional and impactful to a core audience. What does, I guess, being seen and being heard like mean to you personally? Because you're dealing with allowing people to be found and to be heard and to be seen.
It means everything to me. It's not that I didn't have the support. The support was always there. I guess I just never trusted myself enough to share what I was going through with other people because that meant the way that people viewed this happy-go-lucky person who was also extremely broken. I didn't want, I think there was a lot of ego involved, and I didn't want that facade to go away. I didn't want people to think that I was struggling because I could figure it out on my own. I'm the go-to friend for everybody,
Mm,
but the go-to friend needed a go-to friend, and she
hmm
truthfully needed to just open up. So being seen and heard, I think that's what most people are craving and needing. So it's really everything to me. And if I can offer that to and just change even one or two person's day or life, that would
hmm
it's humbling. And I would love to do that and continue to.
I love it. I love it. What a phenomenal conversation, honestly.
Thank you.
Yeah, you are definitely creating an environment for that is conducive and for enough for people to really start to get out of their shell, to feel welcome, to feel understood, to know that there are some things that they can have conversation about. And obviously, like you said, like leave with a friend. I love that. Taylor, where can we find you? Where can we connect with you at? What are some of the platforms that you use most for people to get connected with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find Season of on all platforms, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Twitter, soon enough YouTube, but we have a page up. It's just not active at the moment. But Season of with two underscores. And then if you want to connect with me personally, my personal Instagram is Season of Tay.
All right, guys, what a phenomenal podcast. This was something that is for the books. We got to make sure that we definitely get to one of your events, see it for ourselves. I believe once we are able to see the atmosphere that this conversation will be manifested to, where we can actually see it in our own eyes of how there's an environment that's conducive enough for us to be seen, be heard. And I love that. We're looking forward to seeing you on one of our live stages and talking more in depth about psychology and mental health and how people can unmask the layers. What a great conversation. Guys, this was a great interview. This was a great conversation, great podcast, great episode. Make sure you go back and watch it again. She said some gems in there that I think went over a lot of your heads. So make sure you go back and rewatch it. Without further ado, I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace and bye
Thanks
for
for
now.
having me. Thank you.
Bye bye. All right.